What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com, and I'm back with my top bets for the week in the world of mixed martial arts, and we've UFC 310 this weekend, so I'm going to give you 5 bets from UFC 310, and I'll be honest, I'm taking a little bit of risks this week. I'm going a little bit bigger maybe than usual, because we're coming towards the end of the year, and you know, we've had a good year. I think I hit 99 bets for the year that hit last week, so that's pretty good. And hopefully we'll get to the 100. We've a couple of weeks yet left, so if I didn't get to the 100, I'd be fairly disappointed at this stage, considering we're on 99. But you'd never know in the world of mixed martial arts how things will go. Speaking of how things go, let's quickly recap last week before we get into the bets for this week. And I would just say as well, please bet responsibly. Obviously, with the holiday period coming up as well, it's not an easy time for people financially and everything like that as well. So don't bet more than you can, and even then, you know, scale it back a little bit. I've said, I used to say that all the time in the past, but let me say it again, like this betting show especially is for a bit of fun, a bit of crack, a bit of, you know, a bit of a chat about how, you know, how the fights are going to go, and maybe where you could throw on a fiver and win a bit of money. I'm not your, you know, I bet 1.52 units on this fighter and type of thing. I'm the fun betting guy, hopefully, and bring a bit maybe of tape study into it, and throw maybe something out to you that maybe you haven't thought about before, and maybe that you could bring with your betting knowledge to decide your own stuff. So with that, please bet responsibly. Let's look at last week. We had 10 bets, which mightn't be the most responsible betting, let's be honest. One of the fights didn't happen, the Abdulrahman Al-Assad fight, unfortunately didn't happen, so we were left with 9. We had 5 out of 9, which you know, not too bad, bringing us to 99 of 184 overall. So I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. We're massively over the 50%. Not massively over, but somewhat over. We're probably like 52%. What's we'll do that percentage later. I can't do that in my brain now, but it's like 55% maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so just a quick recap of last week's bets. The 2 bets that I was kind of hopeful for in the prices definitely didn't hit. You know, the Brendan Loughnane one, it was a real domination from Ciryl, and I thought he just upped his ability an awful lot over the last few fights, and I really wasn't expecting him to look as good on the feet as he did, and you know, Loughnane did a good job of keeping the fight on the feet, to be honest, but then it was just Ciryl went to another level himself, and you know, Loughnane came back towards the end of the fight and showed out well, but tough as hell, but Ciryl was just a real top fighter. And then the other one was Popov. I thought it was going so well, and then, you know, again, an issue we're finding more and more in mixed martial arts now is people having holes in their jiu-jitsu, because for a long time, you know, no one was getting submitted, and jiu-jitsu wasn't, you know, it was almost a thing that was massively important at one time. We're like, well, look, if you can do a bit of jiu-jitsu now, you're fine. But it's creeping back in again, and he got caught in a triangle, so not great there. In Baksangan, I was the other one, I suppose, who I picked, and he was the favourite, but he lost pretty, in terms of Yashimurdov's side, pretty impressively. A great win for Yashimurdov there, who, again, another guy, and you could say the same about Goltsov, who was maybe the bridesmaid for a long time, but he was there nice on Friday without a shadow of a doubt. And then George Ade lost a plus 205, but that's a bet I stand by, to be honest. I thought it was a very, very close fight. Now, I do think the right guy won. I'm not criticising the judges or anything, but Ade was right in there, and I actually thought Mohamed Shafi, again, another guy who, you know, like Ciryl, upped his performance, so fair play to him there. And then the bets we did win, Shamil Musayev minus 196. Again, you know, his fights are odd because maybe they look closer than they are until the finishing moment, and that was the case here again. Ali Taleb just destroyed his opponent, minus 205, a great win there. Slim Trabelsi, he won at minus 115. Good price, good win. I actually thought he lost the fight, to be honest, with the judges, but it was very close the second round, especially. And then the other one that hit was a Selijuj at minus 166. Again, he won the first round, lost the second round, possibly 10-8, but he got the guillotine in the third round, and a great win there. So, you know, if we picked out the right 5 ones there, it was a good week. But we had a couple of losers as well. So we just came out of last week unscathed to go into UFC 310 week. Right, let's get to it and let's look at our bets for UFC 310. I'm going to start at the main event, and my first bet is that the main event won't start round 5 at -154. I've watched a lot of tape on this fight especially, but also the co-main event. We'll talk about that in is it the next bet? Maybe, or in a second anyway. And I have, do you know what? My favorite thing is to have so many opinions. I'm not sure which one is the one I was going to say which one is correct, but that's not the case here. But the one I am most favorable about in terms of what my outstanding opinion is. Let's put it that way. I just feel like in this one, we have two guys who are constantly looking for the finish is the wrong word, right? Especially, the Pantoja's been to 3 decisions in a row. He had finishes before that, but he's had a lot of decisions in his career. He's gone to decision 15 times, and in Kai only 6 times. He has there's been 19 finishes in his career, which is an awful lot, I suppose, for the lower weight classes. Now, at the other side of it as well, there's been 18 finishes in Pantoja's career. He's just had more fights, obviously. But I just think looking at this one, and mostly from Asakura's side, I was asked over yesterday to give my picks over at Severe MMA, and I was talking about the fight, and I was doing a breakdown of it, and I was just, my colleague Graham said, maybe Asakura could land that big shot early, and as he said that, I was like, do you know what? Maybe he could, and maybe this is me being a bit flighty and all, but like watching some of his fights, he is this guy who, he waits and he wades and he picks guys off, and he's really smart with that counter shot. And we've seen the power he's had down through the years. Now, maybe people will say, he's not fighting the level, but he's fought some really good guys. He's fought a guy who's beaten Pantoja. He fought Kyoji Haraguchi and others as well. Some of the top Bellator guys. He's been, as good a CV, I suppose, as possible coming into the UFC at a weight class like this, at a time like this, So the other side of that is Pantoja. Watching back his fights, like Pantoja, it's funny. I have compared Pantoja in my notes to GSP, and that's an odd comparison, but I think what fighters love to achieve is control, right? Whether that's taking someone down and control them on top, or jabbing them up and control them, you could add both things together and there's GSP type of thing, right? Okay, but I think Pantoja controls the fight with his variety, his changes in pace, his ability to get through everything, his, I'm going to use the word juggernaut a lot in this, especially when Shavkat's fighting later on, but his ability to kind of juggernaut through situations and fights that the vast majority of people can't. Charles Oliveira, a great example of doing a similar thing. Now, maybe not in the last fight, but in previous fights. And in a different way to Pantoja, of course, but you get what I mean. Like, there is a different way of fighting these days that I think Pantoja does. Now, that's not as safe a way as fighting as taking a guy down, getting into half guard, and pummeling him for 4.5 minutes until the round ends. It's not as safe as staying on the outside jabbing, or doing a Wonder Boy or MVP type of style on the outside. It's not as safe or controlled as that. And my thinking is, like, will that lead him to getting knocked out at some stage? Now, he's never been knocked out or submitted in his whole career, 33 fights. And honestly, looking at that here, based on the way he fights, that's shocking, right? But it's not shocking at the same time, because that's the key almost to his style. His inability to get finished, right? And, to pick Asakura to knock him out after he's never been finished in 33 fights is probably a stupid pick on my behalf, right? Probably is pretty stupid. But the bet here is the fight doesn't start round 5, right? So that doesn't mean Asakura has to win, or doesn't mean Pantoja has to win. It means one of them has to win. And what my biggest issue right here is, I spoke there maybe a minute ago about being positive towards Asakura, very hard hitter for the weight class. Very good at picking guys off, very good counter striker, and is very good against aggressive guys too, and can be aggressive himself when he needs to be, right? And good takedown defense, all that. Very, very well-rounded, very good fighter. The biggest issue for Kai is he's been fighting an awful lot in the ring, and now he's moving to a cage. His takedown defense, and we've seen Pantoja switch things up an awful lot and is really good with his takedowns at times in fights. Is he going to be able to defend in the same way against a guy as high level as Pantoja in a different enclosure than he's used to? That is a massive thing. You know, we heard Demetrius Johnson when he went over to Juan. You know, his first fight he got knocked out with a grounded knee. You know, just because you're not used to it, you're not. You know, it's not the natural point of view. Now, I'm sure for Kai, he's trained an awful lot in cages and all of that, but it is different. And he's probably, you know, to look back, he's probably had fights in cages, but it is different. It is different, and especially when you're fighting at the top level, and the way you like I've covered a lot of different organizations that use cages or rings, and you know, there's literally some fighters you'd pick in a cage and not pick in a ring type of thing. Now, I don't think that's necessarily the case here, but my point is it's a factor coming in, right? This is also his first UFC fight. This is 5 rounds. He's coming back down a way as well. I think someone mentioned, and I just for whatever reason I hadn't thought of it, but someone said he's fought like 13 fights in a row at 135. Now he's not the biggest guy in the world, and I'm sure he'll be able to make it fine, but all of these are factors that play into it. And you're fighting a guy like Pantoja, who won't give you a moment's rest if the UFC lights get to you, if the 5 rounds get to you, if the weight cut gets to you, if the cage is an issue. It could and if 2, 3, or 4 of those things become an issue, Pantoja is going to finish you. Like he is, you can't have that many issues against a guy like Pantoja. I just don't think it's possible. So I think I see a possibility of an early Asakura knockout if he, you know, if his style melds well with Pantoja's, but then I can also see Pantoja drowning him. I really can see that happening. You know, he's been finished 3 times with knockouts. You know, Haraguchi finished him. Manuel Cape finished him, and then it was, you know, years ago his other one against Yehumun. But yeah, I have a feeling. I have a feeling that this one is going to be decided before the bell. So bet number 1 of the week is that -154 Pantoja Asakura 1 start round 5. Bet number 2. You can call me biased, but I have been very, very, very much of the notion on this show, and people who listen to this weekly can back me up, that bet the price. And if you're not betting Ian Garry at +310 here, you're not betting the price. I think that's as simple as that. There's no way you can look at this line and not bet Ian Garry, I think. There's no way. Like, I have no problem if you were to give a straight pick who's going to win, Ian Garry or Shavkat. I have no problem. If people want to pick Shavkat to win, no problem. But Shavkat's line in the betting, you know, he's upwards of -400 in some places, -375, -350. That is crazy. That is really, really, really crazy. And again, Shavkat might win the fight. Ian Garry might lose the fight, right? There's no problem that way. But what they've shown so far in their careers is almost identical. You know, the last fight, one of them beat Wonderboy, one of them beat MVP. You know, okay, Shavkat was definitely a more impressive win. But before that, they both beat Neil, they both beat Magny. Before that, you know, Shavkat beat Harris, Prazeres, Oliveira. Garry beat Rodriguez, Song, Green, Weeks, Williams. Very similar type of thing. You know, obviously Shavkat has knocked everyone out and finished everyone. Ian has gone to a couple of decisions in the middle of that, no problem. Like, Shavkat has definitely been more impressive in terms of the juggernaut, you know, more impressive in terms of the big finisher. And, you know, the vast majority of people are going to pick Shavkat here, right? I'm not completely Irish biased here, right? I have no problem with that. But watching back Shavkat, And it's funny, even before he was signing to fight Ian Garry, I was on the Dominick Reyes podcast talking about it, and I think it might have even been about him fighting Belal maybe. But like, there are definite holes in Shavkat's game, no doubt about it. It's just they're going to be very, very hard to to show up. But what do you have in Ian Garry? You have a guy who let me just look at the heights here. At 6'3", Shavkat is 6'1". He's taller than Shavkat, and Shavkat fights big and fights tall, right? So that's going to be unusual for him. He is younger than him. He's just as good an athlete as him. He's undefeated. He's massive hype and everything like that. So, like, the advantages a lot of people have over Shavkat, I don't think he necessarily has them over Ian Garry. Now, he has advantages in different ways. And again, if he, I said this previously and talked about this previously, right? And to get into the breakdown of the fight a little bit, if Shavkat can juggernaut Ian Garry, and what I mean by juggernaut is go forward, land your big shots over and over and over again, and don't take a whole load. He's going to finish. He's not only going to beat Ian Garry, he's going to finish him. And you could say the same for Belal. You could say the same for JDM. You could say the same for Sean Brady, Musayev, Kuramagomedov, whatever welterweight in the world it is. If Shavkat gets going forward like that and gets landing all these big shots, he's not only going to beat everyone, he's going to finish everyone. There's no doubt about that, right? So, what do you have to do to? Plus, Shavkat's a very good wrestler, very good on top. He can take you down in the middle of all that as well. So. Now, with all that said, why am I giving out about this price? Why do I think the price in Ian Garry at plus 310 is very good? Well, what Ian has shown throughout the years is his ability to control fights, right? Now, again, the thing here is, and always a problem with this sort of fight is Shavkat has never fought anyone as good as Ian, and Ian has never fought anyone as good as Shavkat. Now, you could argue, MVP up there and Wonderboy up there, but they're different sort of matchups, and everyone before that then was, again, very different and not on this level, with no disrespect to any of them. But again, the point is Ian can control fights better than anyone that Shavkat has fought before. An old Wonderboy withstanding. Right, his jab is very good. As I said, the size, his ability to do it there. But what Ian also has is an athleticism that could trouble Shavkat in the one area where he has shown issues before. You've seen the Jeff Neal fight, all right, where Shavkat took shots over and over and over inside because Neal was quicker than him and he wasn't afraid to exchange with him on the inside. Now, going out and advising someone to exchange with Shavkat on the inside is not, I wouldn't be telling myself to do that type of thing. But to win a fight like this, I truly believe you have to get into a fight with Shavkat to beat him. I truly believe that, because the only way the only holes that he's shown so far where you could possibly get to him is that he's on the inside, be faster than him, land shots like Jeff Neal. And also, my big prediction for this fight is I feel like Ian Garry's going to come out southpaw. I feel like I just feel like he's going to fight southpaw, but we'll see on that one. But I'd also be, and I mentioned earlier on about the jiu-jitsu, I'd be very interested. I heard Ray Longo saying on Anik and Florian again, to shout out to him again, that there was rumours that Shavkat was submitting Ian Garry all over the place. So we'll see about that. Like, there's bits and pieces of fights that I was looking at, and I don't know. Shavkat reminds me a little bit of a Justin Gaethje, right? I think he's. I would love to see him like in a jiu-jitsu matchup. I wonder. I wonder how good his jiu-jitsu actually is. Like, we know how good his striking is, we know how good his wrestling is. I'd be very interested, and like Ian's been training a lot of jiu-jitsu since that happened. I'd be very interested to see how all of that works out. Shavkat is in the horse racing world, they call it unexposed. Very, very much unexposed. We haven't seen almost any of the negative points of Shavkat. And if Ian can expose them a little bit, no, the word expose, geez, I probably shouldn't have used that word. And it means a different thing in fighting terms. Now, I don't mean expose him as a fighter. I mean expose little intricacies of weaknesses. And I don't know. I based on that price, can Ian Garry land hard shots on the inside land his jab on the outside, maybe frustrate Shavkat a little bit. And if the fight does go to the ground, not succumb. And also, the last part I would say, if we're going pro Ian Garry here now, this is a bit pro Ian Garry because we're talking about the bet and I'm trying to convince you about the bet, right? Who is better cardio? I would say definitely Ian, without a shadow of a doubt. And can Shavkat keep his style up for 5 rounds? He's never done it before. Never. All his fights are obviously finishes. The furthest he's gone is the 4 minute of the third round. That was against Jeff Neal. And if you go back and watch that fight, I think there were bits and pieces where he didn't look exactly the best in the world in terms of cardio at that stage. So it's all adding together, lads. It's all adding together. We throw in a bit of control. We throw in a bit of maybe Incan wrestling. We throw in a bit of southpaw. We throw in a bit of Irish bias. And Ian Garry plus 310. I think it's a great bet. Let's go. Let's go. Right. Next bet. Dominick Reyes to win by knockout. TKO KO at minus 150. And he is fighting Anthony Smith in this one on UFC 310. I'll be honest, I was pretty impressed with Dominick Reyes last time out against Justin Jacoby. Jacoby, for a guy like Reyes who's shown issues with his chin, is not the easiest matchup in the world, and Reyes came through it, and I thought he looked good. Anthony Smith, a lad who gave himself the name Lionheart, is is one of those fighters. He wins one, loses one, but I have a feeling when he meets a bigger guy like Dominick Reyes, I think Reyes is going to come out and be the aggressor, going to come out and be very, very much the I'm going to finish you in the first round type of guy. I think that will benefit him, and I think that'll be the win in the fight. The only thing I would say to that is, right, so Anthony Smith is 36 years of age. He's had 58 fights. He's lost 20 of them. But if you look at his recent losses, right, decision, lost in the third round, lost in another decision, lost in the second round, lost the decision, lost in the fifth round, lost the decision. And then this is going all the way back to John Jones. So he's not a guy that's getting finished early, right? And he's fought some good guys in there. So to look at this pick and go, okay, kind of to pick him to finish him early, the reason I've gone for that is I have a feeling that Anthony Smith isn't going to have the kind of the stick-to-itiveness anymore. Now, I could be totally wrong on that as well, right? I could be totally wrong. But when you're meeting a big guy like that who's going to come out and, his nickname I'm looking at here is the Devastator, I just have a feeling that this might be the one. This might be a turning point, maybe in both of their careers, where Smith is like, maybe it could be his last one. Maybe this is the fight for Reyes, where at this stage of his career, 34 years of age, maybe has a couple more in him, and there was a couple more big ones, and maybe get back towards that title shot after losing 4 in a row after that John Jones fight. Well, 3 in a row after John Jones, 4 in a row, including the John Jones fight. Maybe he's a little bit of an Indian summer left in him. So, again, this is more of a feel one. Ray is a massive favorite here, and I was kind of looking for a price in the middle of it, and I don't know, I do like it, but again, this is the type of one I think that is a bit more risky at the price. So maybe have a little think about it yourself and see what you think. But that's bet number 3. Reyes by TKO KO minus 150. Also minus 150. I'm going for Themba Gorimbo to win his fight over Vicente Luque. Now, again, this is at short notice. You've Gorimbo, a guy who is, has shown weaknesses in his career, is only young in his career in terms of the UFC. He's 33 years of age, and he's had 17 fights. So he's, or 18 fights, sorry. But so he's had a bit of, a bit of experience and all. But a guy like Luque is obviously very different. 33 fights into his career, been around since God was a boy type of thing. I just thought Luque, in his last couple of fights, look, he beat Dos Anjos, who, again, kind of the ghost of Dos Anjos, lost to Buckley, lost to Neal and Bilal before that. And I don't think Vicente Luque has looked like the Vicente Luque of old, to be honest. I think he looks a shadow of himself. I think there are big issues in his game now where, At 33 years of age, it's mad to say it, right? And he's only just turned 33 last week. Happy birthday, Vicente. I don't know. I just don't think it's there for him anymore. Now, I could be very, very wrong. And this is a good fight, I suppose, to turn that around. But even since the Tyron Woodley fight back in 2021, where he came back and he won that fight, Tyron started that fight pretty well, and the two wins since that were Chiesa, which he kind of was losing as well, the Bravo choke, and again Dos Anjos over 5 rounds, which was, a good win for him. A good win. I won't take that away, but, got finished by Jeff Neal. But Ahmed doesn't finish anyone, but Jackie Buckley made him look very human. And I just think for Themba, especially like after his last win, where it wasn't the most impressive win in the world leader, but I like those wins sometimes. Go in, take a guy down, eke out a decision. Sometimes you just have to do that. He beat Razim Brahim before that, who's looked good since. I like Themba here. Vasuka is very good on the Vicente Luque is very good on the ground. Has a good few submissions in his career, 8 submission wins. But I think if Themba can take him down, I think he can probably beat him there. And I also think maybe if Themba uses that jab, hits him hard on the outside, I think maybe he might be ripe for the pick in there as well. So I'm going for Themba, and I think he will. I think he'll get the win there. And the last bet, I was a little bit surprised at this price. The Flier of the week. I'm bringing back the Flier. Actually, we have another bet as well. I have the parlay, the pay-per-view parlay. But the Flier, Bryce Mitchell to win by knockout, TKO KO, plus 700. Plus 700 for Bryce Mitchell to win here. Now, the fight for Flat Earth, as a lot of people are calling it, is going down on the main card, 16-2. Bryce Mitchell against Cron Gracie, who's 5-2. Cron 5 submissions, lost 2 decisions, hasn't fought since May 2023 against Charles Jourdain, and it was 2019 against Cub Swanson where he fought before that. And look, Cron, you can say what you want about Bryce Mitchell, but Cron Gracie, he's more like the old school Gracies than he is a new school MMA fighter. And I think, again, say what you want about Bryce Mitchell. He got sparked against Josh Emmett, got beaten by, probably the best fighter in the world in Ilia Topuria, but he's beaten everyone else. He's beaten Dan Ige, beaten Edson Barboza, Andre Feely, Charles Rosa. He's beaten some good fighters. And Cron Gracie's not a good fighter. I don't think Bryce, Bryce is a wrestler, so will he have a bit of issue taking Cron down? And I don't think he will. I think he'll take Cron down, beat him to a pulp, probably beat him standing as well. This Flyer, I've only hit like 3 Flyers all year. Guaranteed Flyer. But responsibly. This is going to happen. Bryce Mitchell has to knock Cron Gracie out. He might even submit him. We'll look at the submission price here in a minute, but he could even submit him, but he's going to knock him out. Surely. Even if Bryce doesn't take him down, he'll just beat him up in the feet. And I know, again, Cron has gone to a decision a couple of times, and he's a bit tricky and stuff like that. But there's a famous comedic duo here called The Unbelievables, and rest in peace, John Kenny, who died last week. But they have a joke in one of their acts, and they say this guy will do it. And why will he do it? He'll do it because he's stupid enough. And sometimes you just have to be stupid enough, right? Sometimes you just have to be idiotic enough to go out there and do it. And I think he has the stuff to do it, and he will do it. So I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell to get the knockout here at plus 700. There we go. Right, the parlay, the pay-per-view parlay, plus 282, 4-man parlay. Ciryl Gane to beat Volkov, Bryce Mitchell, who we just spoke about, Dominick Reyes, who we just spoke about, but also Eryk Anders thrown in there as well. So Gane minus 355, minus 650 for Mitchell, minus 333 for Reyes, and minus 104 for Anders to go plus 282. Obviously on the Anders fight, first of all, he's fighting Chris Weidman. I gave this as one of my picks a couple of weeks ago. The fight didn't obviously end up happening. I just think at this stage of Chris Weidman's career, if you put him in there with a very good athlete like Eryk Anders is, who's not the best fighter in the world, but he's a good athlete, a guy who shows up sometimes and doesn't show up other times, but is never embarrassed. Let's put it that way. I think a fighter like that, who's going to be faster and stronger and more confident than Chris Weidman, I find it very hard to pick Chris Weidman to beat someone like that. Very, very, very hard. Now, this would be unthinkable a few years ago, but at this stage, I think that's the case. And then in the Ciryl Gane one, obviously he fought Volkov before he went to decision, win 5 rounds. I didn't get a chance to go back and watch that, but I was talking to someone about it, and they were kind of saying to me that, again, the word control. There was a lot of control for Ciryl Gane in that, and it went to decision, and he won basically every round. And I would be very surprised if the same thing didn't happen here now. Gane has been out for a while as well. He hasn't fought since 14 months. So that's a bit of a worry, I suppose. Volkov on the other side of it then has, he fought Pavlovich in June and won that fight and looked impressive in it. So, he earns this spot. But I like Gane. It's a big time for the heavyweight division as well. He might end up fighting. If he wins this, he might end up fighting Tom Aspinall for the official heavyweight title if John Jones relinquishes it or whatever. So a massive opportunity there for him, and that's all. That's the parlay. Gane, Mitchell, Reyes, Anders for plus 282. So not a bad price for them, I think. Right, let's have a look at some of the other bets from the week. And actually, first of all, there's a very good Octagon card as well. We had obviously a very busy week this week with PFL and all, so I didn't manage to get a preview done on that. I should have one for the last Octagon card of the year, which is a phenomenal card, but we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. But on this card, it's a stand-up fight to me. And I had this written in my bets earlier on in the week, but I took it out for a UFC one. Kite Brito minus 150 against Ion Sardu. I love that price. Like, Kite Brito was the guy who fought Oban Elliott in the Dana White Contender Series. And, a lot of people thought he won that fight. Great fight. I think he's a guy who absolutely should be in the UFC. I think Oban would probably agree with that as well. But he's back in Octagon here, former Octagon champion. And Ion Sardu's a guy who's been around for a long time. And, he's, again, a guy who's never an easy fight for anyone. But I think Kike will have a lot to prove in that. And I like him to win that. Some of the other people on that card, Daniel Shkivor, I really like Daniel. He's minus 120 there. He's the favorite. Jacob Donald, a lot of people talking about him. I spoke about him on one of the previous shows. He's minus 275 against Michael Sheck. So a pretty big price there. Alexander Popek against Mark Ducis. Popek again, minus 225. So that's kind of the top and bottom of a lot of the Octagon stuff for this week. But to the UFC. It's funny looking at the betting here. There's been a lot of cancelled fights, Bilal against Shavkat. Nick Diaz was supposed to fight Lucas. So very, very interesting. At the main event prices, I suppose, to look at them. And before we do that, let's just throw out the prices for the main card fights here. So main event Pantoja, best price minus 250, plus 230 for Asakura. Ian Garry plus 310, best price minus 350 for Shavkat. Volkov plus 275, best price. Gane minus 335. Bryce Mitchell minus 650 plus 550 for Kron. And in Doo Ho Choi minus 125. Late Landwehr minus 138. I was very close to picking Doo Ho Choi as well. I'm not the biggest believer in Nate Landwehr in the world either, but I don't know exactly where Doo Ho Choi is with the game at the moment. He's a guy who I think a lot of people had a lot of affection for, but I'm just not sure, where he is at this stage. But I like that price in him, and if I was to have a bet in that fight, it'd probably be for that. We have Smith plus 270 minus 333 for Reyes. Gorimbo minus 150 plus 136 for Luka. Sterling and Evlaev, another fight. That I think plus 210 for Sterling I think it's a great price. Minus 258 for Evlaev. I don't see in Evloev. I don't know what other people see. Now, I might be wrong. I very much probably am. But I just... I don't think he'll trouble the top guys at 145. I definitely don't think he troubles Topuria. Depending on where Holloway and Volkanovski are in their careers right now, I don't think he troubles them either. Now, maybe they aren't at the point they were before, but the question is, he's fighting Sterling this weekend, and will he trouble Sterling? Sterling has had trouble against guys with this sort of style before, so I think he might. The size, the push forward nature of Evloev. But, like, will Sterling be able to take him down? I think probably not. Can he kind of win a kickboxing match on the outside then? I'm not too sure, but I think this will be a close enough fight, to be honest. I really do. I think it'll be close. I definitely wouldn't bet on Evloev at that price. Would I bet on Sterling at that price is the question. Maybe. Brian Battle. I actually think that battle price at -225 is pretty good. Like, Randy Brown is a live dog, no doubt about it, in every fight. But yeah, and +195 is not shabby either. But I think Brian Battle's a good fighter. Weidman and Anders. Weidman's a favorite here. Jesus, -110, -104 for Anders. You've Durden and Van. Again, I have a bit of a soft spot for Van, -148. I think that's a good price against Durden, +125. I think Griffin, again, I like that price as well on him, -122 to beat Chiesa, +115. Chase Hooper, you just can't bet Chase Hooper at -1,000 in some places. Clay Guida +675. Let's roll with Clay there. Let's roll. If this is any other show, that would probably be my flyer. But then we've Kennedy and Juku against Lucas Bresky. Kennedy -590 and Bresky +450. Again, Kennedy will probably win that one. But yeah, that's the top and bottom of it. There was one or two bets I wanted to look at as well. So Bryce Mitchell, I mentioned that. Bryce to win by submission, +550. I wouldn't go massively past it at all. Here's another wild one that I think, and let's see if the price is in for this, because some of these are and some of these aren't. I have a sneaky Ian Garry by submission feeling here, +2900. So if that madness happens, Ian Garry wins by submission, +2900. You can come back here and you can say, Sean, you're a genius. So there you go. Rachmanov to get the knockout, +260. Ian to get the knockout, +600. Wow, if you fancy Ian, that's a pretty good price there. And then Rachmanov to get the submission, +165. Wow, so it's a very, very much people think Rachmanov is going to get it. Let's see. I actually haven't looked at this yet. The fight to go to a decision, +240. Fight doesn't go to decision, -330. So they reckon the fight is going to be finished. That's very, very interesting. The over-under at 3.5 rounds. Under -105, over -125. So the over is the favorite there, but the 4.5 rounds isn't up yet. The fight starts round 5, +166. That's interesting. That's a very, very interesting one. This to me, look, this is one of the most interesting fights of the year. I cannot wait for this. It's unbelievable. Let's look at the Pantoja against Asakura. Fight goes to decision, +162. Fight doesn't go to decision, -210. I'll tell you that +162 is probably as good a bet as you'll get on a flyweight fight to go to decision, to be honest. Now, maybe my bet is good because of that, but that's an interesting price. A very, very interesting price there. If you fancy either of them to get the knockout, Pantoja +490, +330 for Kai Asakura. The submission, +2800 for Kai. Pantoja +230. 230 there, so. That is the top and bottom of it. That is the betting show for this week. And just to recap here, my bets. Bet number 1, the main event, Pantoja Asakura, won to start round 5 at -154. Ian Garry, +310. Reyes knockout, -150. -150 for Themba Gorimbo to win straight up 2. And then the flyer of the week is Bryce Mitchell to get the knockout, +700. Then we have the parlay, Gane, Mitchell, Reyes, Anders. Gane, Mitchell, Reyes, Anders, +282. And with that, we will leave it there. Thank you very much for tuning in. Happy holidays. Enjoy the fights this weekend. And I'll see you all next time.